Well, hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday to you. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Winnie Sun, your host, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you about the financial market. So let's start there because we have a very special guest. I can't wait to introduce you. So you're going to definitely want to hang out and meet him. So today, let me just start by saying the financial markets has officially turned into the President Trump show. If you haven't caught this already, the Dow closed up 530 points. The Nasdaq closed up 209 points. And in fact, that's the best day for the financial markets since July. In fact, yesterday, if you remember, President Trump announced that there will no longer be stimulus discussions until after the election. And at that point, when he's reelected, he will decide what the stimulus package will be for Americans, and it will be the greatest of all time. But today, he made a slight pivot and said that, in fact, there should be relief for our airline workers and there should be stimulus checks being sent out to Americans. I love that idea. Absolutely love the idea. I think it's really a great step. But then he also said, Nancy Pelosi, are you paying attention? Because this is something that you are stopping us from being able to do. Anyhow, so on that, I want to warn you because when we're talking about financial planning and investing in general, it's really good to keep our long-term goals in mind, focused on what's important for ourselves and our families. And, as much as this can be entertaining, I want to warn you against investing based on what you're hearing in the news on a day-to-day basis, because it can be very dangerous, especially if you're making dramatic financial decisions for you and your loved ones. On that note, let's go to something that I really want to talk about, and that is our tweet chat and our discussion today. I'm excited and I'm honored to welcome my friend, Ryan Foland. Now, Ryan, it's great to see you. Okay, I just said that we were friends, and now you have this funny sticker on your head. You're going to have to explain yourself, Ryan. What is Ditch the Act?
Well, first of all, this is a bookmark. This is one of the best pieces of technology known to humankind. There's no RDIF chip. There's no technology. If you simply put it in a place of a book where you left off, when you open the book, you find it. And this happens to be the title of my book, Ditch the Act, which if you translate, it just means try to be more human. That's it.
Okay, I love that. Ryan, we just talked about how it's the President Trump stock market show now. And so I'm really glad you're saying to be more human. One thing I will say for those of you who are watching, let's agree that being human is a beautiful thing. And, for those of us who are still human, like Ryan and I, we actually got a chance to have a really fun discussion, Q&A today on Twitter, discussing virtual speaking, if you will. So, Ryan, I know that this is something you've done plenty of. Maybe you could give everybody a quick bio on yourself. In addition to being a very talented author, let's talk about I'm going to say this because I have heard you speak. You are not only a very talented author, an amazing artist, amazing human being. Let's just put it there, but also a really, really talented speaker. If you haven't seen Ryan in action yet, number one, he's high energy, very personable, and he will keep you at the edge of your seat when he talks. What do you think, Ryan? True?
Yeah, well, hopefully I'll make you stand up because one thing I would say is when you are sitting down, you lose some of that energy. And so I'm just containing myself. I'm sitting down. Normally I would be standing up, but I don't want to get too crazy here.
You do run around like a crazy person when you speak sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, I love speaking, and I think that we are all public speakers. We just don't admit it. Because when you have a conversation with a friend or a family member, it's all speaking at the end of the day. In fact, if you speak in public, then you are a public speaker. It's a scientific fact that you cannot argue either. I'm also known to rap. I call it the WRAP. I like to wrap things up. But again, the tweet chat was so fun today, and just tweet chats in general. And I love Winnie Sun's tweet chat because it's not just the guests and the host. It's the whole community that's come together. And to be part of this community over so many years and just to be able to chirp in on Wednesday, this is a topic that I almost pretended like I was one of the hosts or the guests because all these questions really resonated with me. And if you don't know what a tweet chat is, think of it as a live radio show on Twitter where everyone is a live caller and asking questions at the same time. So it's a super powerful community building tool. And having Duncan as well as I just
Amy
met her for
Jo,
the first time. What now?
Amy Jo Martin.
Amy Jo Martin. I mean, what a great lineup. And there were so many insights from everyone. And I think that, the best way to learn is through communicating and talking with people. And so it was like a virtual inception. But personally, I am a speaker, I'm an author, and I'm a ginger. I like to speak about the topic of simplicity when it comes to communication, because I think in a world full of noise, we overcomplicate things, we speak too much, we talk past the sale. And when it comes to trying to describe who we are, that question, what do you do? Oftentimes that's the most frequently asked question and sometimes the most difficult to answer. So I've been, like most professional speakers, somewhat chopped off at the knees during this COVID time. But I've really taken it as an opportunity to just double down on new experiences. And I think that the digital revolution has been really creeping up on us for a while, and this is just a shortcut to take it seriously. So it's always a pleasure to chat with everybody and fun to see old friends. And I think that if you took all of the comments and tweets and you just took the word virtual out of it, it's still applicable to the live stage. And I think the more that we see the mesh between, which is really connecting with the audience, bringing the energy, being aware of your surroundings, engagement, all of that stuff came through in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely agree with that comment. I think many of us who do traditionally speak on the large stage, we're usually on a plane, we're usually putting together our slides, we're getting ready to go on stage. And most importantly, doing the in-person interaction is what I miss most. When I used to work in television, what I love to do is see the audience come into the show and then how the engagement would start to take place amongst each other. And then the host would go on the show, and it's very much that way when you speak on stage. I miss in-person speaking so much just because I love meeting the audience. Ryan, one of the questions that they started off kind of right in the beginning was, virtual speaking versus in-person speaking. I'm going to guess that for you, in-person is what you prefer. True or not? Or
true. Final answer. And one example is that right now, if it were a normal time, I would be patched in from Haiti. The last 3 years, I've spoken at the Haiti Tech Summit, shared the stage with Ben Horowitz. Jack was there from Twitter the other year, and it was just so amazing to fly to another country and meet hundreds of people from around the globe that just came together. And your speech time is always that stage time, and sometimes it's so exciting it just flies by. But I had an opportunity to spend like an entire week with so many amazing people, and over the years we built those relationships, and I found myself extending my stay. So whenever I have a chance to speak in person, I'll usually extend it a week before so that I can really get involved with the culture and jump on the back of a motorbike and go up into the hills, into the water chestnut, and crack open coconuts and pour a little rum in it and just really get to know the culture. But I am speaking again in Haiti, and it's the 4th Haiti Tech Summit. It's virtual, so I'm missing that in-person element, but I still think that there's the relationships that can continue to form. So yes, definitely in person is more energizing, and the travel is a huge part of the benefit of being a professional speaker. But at the same time, like, I'm able to go to Haiti and back with a lot less travel time, giving me a chance to sort of spread my freckles elsewhere digitally.
Spread your freckles. I really like that. I'm kind of getting a visual right here. But I agree with you. I know for myself personally, I know my family appreciates it so much more. And I've started to learn to appreciate it too. I've never done this much virtual speaking as I have done now. In the last almost 7 months, it's been dozens of talks on the digital screen. And we wanted to share that with you today because on the Tweetchat, there was a lot of discussions on how do you do this. So you might be running a business, you might be running, maybe as an employee even looking for ways to bring more value to your audience or your team members or your colleagues, and you might be looking for some inspiration about how you can make that meeting more enticing, more engaging, and more meaningful and more memorable, of course, for everybody involved. And so that's why that was sort of the inspiration for today's tweet chat. So Ryan, what do you think? Let's go ahead and share some of the questions that we had today and we can talk through them. Let's do this. Let's take a look at some of the questions. So here's one that we have. So this was question 2. So we wanted to hear how speaking virtually in front was different instead of in a sense of a live audience. And, you know, Ryan, you definitely gave us a powerful answer. You want to kind of expand and kind of share a little bit more on this?
Absolutely. When you are on stage, you have at least, 180-degree view. You see people everywhere, and, you might have a confidence monitor or not, but you feel this environment that you're in. And I might have to talk to Eric about this, but one of the worst things about Zoom is that when you just default to sharing your screen, it takes over your entire desktop. And when all you see is what you're sharing, you lose real estate. And so you feel like confined, and it makes you feel like you're in a computer. But I found a really interesting hack that's within the system, and it's using the advanced share feature where you can share a portion of the screen. So I developed my PowerPoint, and then, in PowerPoint, how you can adjust the sidebar to where you have your slides and then, your big slide, and then you go to presentation mode and it takes over. Well, I don't like my desktop to be taken over because I feel confined. So I make my PowerPoint really tiny on my screen, like maybe a few inches. And then I'll use the custom in the advanced. So when you go to click share screen, it automatically goes to basic. And up in the top next to it says advanced. And under advanced, the first option is share custom screen size. And then you can drag out. And so I'll have like a 2 or 3 by inch over my PowerPoint. And then it doesn't take up my whole screen. So I can have other windows up. I can be looking at my slides. And I actually don't use a clicker. I use my mouse, and I'll just scroll through and pick which slides that I want. What that allows me to do is be interactive in real time. No longer is it, I think, appropriate to just run through all of your slides from like A to Z. I will have a number of slides that I want to cover, but I'm looking at the audience, I'm getting feedback, I'm reading them, and I'm skipping around to make sure that it's not just me presenting, but it's me interacting. And the one good thing I will say about Zoom is the grid view, because I'll take the grid view and I'll make it as big as I can on my screen, and I'll oftentimes scroll through. And when you're in an audience in front of 100 or thousands of people, you can't see their facial reactions. So I always encourage people to get off of just their name, and I want to see your face. And I'll even kind of like lean in and point people out and see somebody smile and call them out. And so using just that advanced feature to have less real estate taken up on your screen allows you to have the grid while still sharing your screen. That's one of the things I do to make it a little bit more personal.
So Ryan, Jim from Chicago says he has a question. He says, can you scale the size of each image when you are in advanced mode?
So when you're in advanced mode, the screen in which you're outlining, you lose the functionality to click within there, right? But everything around that, you have the opportunity to. So if, for example, the screen was taking up this much, and if you wanted to zoom in, as long as your mouse is outside of the screen, and then if you have a Mac and you zoom, it'll do what your desktop normally does. But what's nice is that you have the ability, like imagine if this screen is my desktop, I will take my PowerPoint and it'll line up with my main slide here, and then I have all my little slides here, and then on this side is where I'll do the large grid. Now I like break rooms too, and so that gives me the opportunity to have, the chat feed, the grid, my PowerPoint, and seeing essentially which slides that I want to choose. So it gives you options outside of that little clickable box. The trick is make it a little box, but they see it as a full screen. Hopefully
I love this, Ryan. That's a great tip. I'm definitely going to check that out. Jim, I'm sure you are too. After this, we'll jump on Zoom. We'll figure it out, right?
And real quick, one thing, Winnie, I want to clarify is that this is within the Zoom meeting function. Okay. When it comes to a Zoom webinar, you only have the option of going full screen when you share. And so the other hack is to always have a second screen handy. Okay. If you are, because I'll ask the organizers, I'll say, can we do this as a Zoom meeting? And they're like, well, why? And I'll say, well, I want to do breakout rooms and I want to be able to have control of the screen. And if it's not an option, especially these larger scale events, what you do is you have a secondary screen. And then when you share your screen, you put your PowerPoint presentation on the other screen. So you're looking at your desktop that's not being shared, but your second screen is being shared. So you have like all this real estate that you can do and click around without. It's very limiting when your whole screen gets taken up. It's like being on stage and somebody just, okay, start speaking, and then somebody just holds their hand in front of you as you're trying to like figure out what's going on.
I can totally relate to this because I just did a meeting last week for a Fortune 500 company, and same thing. The slide took over and you don't know what's going on. So I love this hack. I love this, Ryan. Brilliant. All right, let's go. Next question, because we want to talk. Let's go. Okay, how do you negotiate fees with the absence of travel when setting up a virtual speaking event? Is there a strategy to being flexible with your compensation? So, Ryan, Amy Jo Martin, who you mentioned earlier, she was our expert panelist today, and she says, definitely you should get. Earlier, she had another tweet that said, definitely, you should get paid for speaking. However, if you can't get paid on traditional compensation, think about asking for email addresses of your attendees, which is gold, and ask. Oops, it went away. I forgot the other one. But here it is. Ask if you can make specific offer to your audience. So I think in that case, it'd be like, I know Amy Jo's an author, maybe selling books or maybe training courses or coaching programs. I guess that would be another way of compensation. But Ryan, actually one of your tweets I really loved on this subject, which is, sometimes it is appropriate, and I know you and I both agree on this, sometimes it's appropriate to volunteer your speaking services. And certainly you and I have both done that. So talk a little bit about that, Ryan, if you will.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope when you start to speak for free. And so first, I would encourage you to think of volunteer work and how much time you would say volunteer, right? Let's take speaking out of it. I've got my day job, I've got my side hustle, and I want to give back. I want to mentor. I want to be part of some sort of program. I want to go to the beach and clean up trash. You're separating the two. And so when it comes to speaking, I think to myself, this is the available time that I have to speak. And then I'll typically find a percentage, and it ranges between 10 and 20% of the time that I'm allocating to be on stage to volunteer. And I think that's important because it gives yourself the ability to say, look, I do charge. Mm-hmm. And it gives you that first, like, this is my business. I'm a professional. And if you can't pay the honorarium, then let's look at how many books you can purchase. And if you can't do, like, you have this sliding scale, but as a backup, you have this like, well, I could volunteer. And when you do volunteer, Amy Jo was talking about a number of different value adds that you can do, but decide what you charge ahead of time. Now, when we were in a normal world, I knew exactly what I charged, right? I'm between a $10,000 and $20,000 keynote. I'm between a this and that for a workshop. Like, I know what my fees are. They're there. Obviously, with a new world, there's so many, the costs are so skewed because the event doesn't have the revenue to bring in the ticket sales because they have all the bells and whistles of a live event. And so you have to adjust your fees, but still charge fees. And, at the end of the day, I think we all should enjoy volunteering. And I look at speaking for free as volunteering. It's not speaking for free. It's volunteering. My time is valuable. It's the most valuable thing that we all have. And the Haiti Tech Summit is a great example where in a real world situation, real world is in non-COVID, if they can't match your fees, I won't travel unless they're covering the travel costs. And sometimes that's still worth it, especially if you can bring somebody with you and that's an experience. But when there's no travel, you can still position it as something that you're bringing value to. A lot of it can come with a promotion before, during, and after. And I think a lot of speakers put pressure on the event planners and the organizers to do promotion for that long-lasting value. No, you have to be your biggest advocate and use your talks as a way to build your brand.
Right.
One thing that I didn't have a chance to share on the tweet chat, because it's just rapid fire. There's so many tweets going on. I've gotten into a rhythm now where when I give a talk, I always make sure I have a recorded copy of it. And then I'm working on always turning those talks into written content, which I will then spin off into tweets, which I then will spin off into other posts. And so I look at a talk not as just that stage time, but as a chance to volunteer and then to parcel and split and syndicate that content elsewhere. So for the Haiti Tech Summit, I've really enjoyed being there in person. But when they asked me to speak this year, I'm like, absolutely. Because remember, your actions and your behaviors now are going to set you up for the future. And when I had you on my podcast talking about the financial ramifications of this for speakers, which definitely check out Winnie's episode on the world of speakers, you can go to ryan.online/WinnieSun2 because it was the second time on there. But one of the things that stuck with me, and you and Josh Linkner said, you got to think of this as a long-term strategy. You have to. And if you want to be known as somebody who is earning fees, then tell people you charge fees. And if you can't get the fees, find value. And if you can't get anything, maybe you decide to volunteer. But that's your choice.
Yes, it's your choice. I love that. And it's so true because, during this time of the pandemic, I've given so many of these volunteer talks at, major corporations for hundreds of thousands of employees right now going through furlough, getting laid off. And you have to make a decision. I mean, they wouldn't be able to pay you. Does that mean that's going to keep you from sharing this important message? A lot of people need hope and help right now. And so Ryan and I think, and many of you who are watching probably know that you have value that could help another person on this planet. So perhaps it's in the form of volunteer speaking, like we mentioned before. And it's okay. It's not like it's always going to be. There's going to be a time and place where the right company, the right conference will pay money correctly based on your expertise. And we've both been benefactors of very large speaking fees, but right now I'm sure you and I are both doing more volunteer work than normal. And I actually think it's a good thing. I'm really proud of that. I do feel like more professionals who have value that could help another American, another human on this planet right now, we should be doing that. So it's not just about what you're hearing in the news, because sometimes those voices overshadow other people that are doing good work, and that could help. So I love that. All right, next question.
Real quick, I got two quick things on this because I want to touch on what Amy Jo said about emails being gold. Okay, they are gold if you actually use them. And I'm going to totally admit that over the last 5+ years, as I've been speaking and gathering emails, I have been afraid to send people things. And COVID has done a lot of inspiration for creativity and motivation for actually getting stuff done. And so I do believe that getting emails is amazing, but I will say I have sat on emails for years. So because of COVID, I actually now have a weekly newsletter that goes out that people can sign up for. And I'm 13 plus, maybe even 17 weeks in a row that I've done it. And so I'm emailing up to 7,000 people a week now, where before COVID, I was sitting on 7,000 emails, just like not sure what to do with it. So use this opportunity to do the things that you need to do for your business, but you've just been timid to do. Like it's so hard to like go and click that button, but you have the opportunity to do that. So I would say, yes, emails are good if you can actually get the courage to send them. That send button. Yes, and I think I had something else to say, but I'm going
to cut you off right there because I'm going to agree with you on that, Ryan. And I will say that, I did a talk with a very good friend of mine, Peter Shakeman. And same thing, I have a list of attendees and I just never did it because I felt like I didn't ask permission to send them anything. But based on your comment, I'm going to send them something. We're going to figure it out. This will be really fun. All right. Last question. And I know we're going to make sure we wrap up on time today. But last question, let's take a look at what we got. Okay, audience participation engagement is a running theme amongst well-seasoned speakers, but on a virtual platform, this can be tricky. How to keep these elements when speaking virtually? Now, Duncan Wardle, for those of you who don't know Duncan, Duncan is a total powerhouse coming out from the one and only Disney, head of innovation. He's like just so incredible. But these are some of the things that he said. And, Ryan, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that. He talked about, definitely talked about engagement. He brought up Oculus and everything. How much of this is in Ryan's world as well?
Well, I will tell you that the interaction is something that I'm very excited about exploring. And I will also say that exploring new features and functions within these platforms may feel weird and awkward, but this is an opportunity to explore them. And technology is always going to be glitching. Things are always going to go wrong, but it's okay. It actually makes you more relatable because we've all had these Zoom issues. I'm a big fan of the poll. And again, sometimes I've had these webinars where they disengage the poll. I'm like, no, give me the poll. So I actually have I hand draw all my slides. And so I have a little poll icon that's up in the top corner. And I'll let them know in the beginning, when you see this little icon, that means get your fingers ready because you're going to interact. And I'll ask a question. I know that he was saying he uses live polls, but I use the chat. And then so I'll ask a question, and then I will literally read as they come out and integrate what they're saying into it. Johnny says this about here, and yeah, exactly that. And then I'll just keep moving on. So live polls, you get them warmed up, just like, so when I'm in a live situation, I have claptivities. So we do like a golf clap and then a thunder clap, and you get everybody sort of warmed up. So I try to do that in the beginning. And if you get people comfortable with submitting in the poll, then you're asking questions and you're bringing them involved in the process. So you have to get them warmed up. The worst is if you don't warm them up and you're like, all right, here's a question. Would anyone like to submit in the chat? Just one viewer? So you warm up with little activities. Like I'll ask them questions. I'll say like, what's your favorite color? Like how many Earths can fit in the sun? And then they don't know. And then I tell them it's like 1.3 million. So the poll is interesting. I'm into the breakout rooms as well. Now, one thing, this is advanced hack, and I would love to see you use this, Winnie. Do you know Vin Gang? He's an Australian. He's a magician. He's an amazing speaker. If you don't know him, I'm going to introduce him to you, okay? I went to one of his virtual trainings, and I would say for any speaker, if you're planning on putting on trainings, start shelling out cash and actually investing in being an attendee. If you're a speaker and you're not attending virtual events, you don't know what the other side is there. Exactly. I mean, Winnie, when we're at these conferences, we always sit in on other talks. We love seeing other people talk. But if you're the kind of presenter who's just, I'm a presenter, I'm not going to go to somebody's workshop. Oh my gosh, I've been on more webinars. Some of them put me to sleep, but some of them I pull nuggets from.
That's right.
So here's what Vin did, and I love this. He says, okay, we're going to go out into a breakout room. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. He drops a link in the chat. It's his website /keyword. What you do is you click on that link as an attendee, and now you have a browser. You actually go to his website. There's a timer on the top, and then there's instructions on what to do so that the people in the breakout room have your website open following directions because you can't be in every breakout room. So with my 313, instead of just putting people into breakout rooms, I say, okay, go to ryanfoland.com /problem, ready, breakout. So there's a timer, there's instructions. And guess what? If there's a couple hundred people, I get a couple hundred clicks to my website. When the presentation's over, they're like, what is this website? Oh, who's this guy? My clicks and my traffic to my website has just gone through the roof because I give instructions about what to do in the breakout room in the middle of the chat. And now those act as resources afterwards. It's very hard to get people to go to your website. So integrating instructions via a website, I got to give Vin credit for that because it really was powerful. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm just going to let that sit for a second.
Okay, let's give it a minute. I love that. I love that. But you know what I want to say? I'm going to give a shout out to my friends at DreamWorks Animation because I recently spoke at their conference and I thought some of the things that they did were so brilliant too. For example, while people were signing in, and like we had hundreds of people signing in, and you know how during that time, instead of just watching people come in, they were putting on like literally happy dance music. It was, I think it was Hispanic Heritage Month. So all of this amazing, music, everybody was getting into it. So then while you were waiting for your friends to come in and you're coming and saying hi to everybody, like everybody's head was popping, that energy fed through everything. So I would say if you're an event coordinator, make sure, even if it's virtual, get people excited, give them something. And music does do that. I think that's cool. And then I'll give another shout out because I was also part of an event with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn did the same thing, what you talked about. The breakout rooms, if you haven't been in one of these through Zoom, is absolutely brilliant. But it has to be done in such a way where you tell people what's happening. What I love what Ryan said is, if you want people to clap, if you're going to give them polls, then let them know ahead of time you're going to do this and not just like all of a sudden, throw one up on them. And what I learned from the LinkedIn meeting was exactly that. Like there was sort of no really warning. All of a sudden we went into a group and all of a sudden we got pulled out of a group and we were in the middle of a conversation and then it just stopped. So I do think we, having that over communication where you're doing it on a virtual summit is critical, but making sure that this is tight. One of the participants on today's chat said this: make sure that you keep segments to 10 minutes. Ryan, how long do you speak when you speak virtually? How long?
Oh, I go full time, if not more, like hour and a half, easy. I push. If they give me 45, I'll ask for an hour. If they give me an hour, I'll ask for an hour and a half. And I actually tweeted this out as part of it. I don't look at Zoom fatigue as like something that I'm combating. I treat this as a live action-packed performance where I have their attention. And so I don't limit the amount of time to keep the interest. I try to improve my presentation. I try to create engagement and make things dynamic so that they don't feel like they're just in front of a computer. Yes, if you get somebody on their 7th hour during a day, they maybe don't want to sit on Zoom for another hour and a half, but I'm not letting time dictate my message or time dictate how I'm doing it. And again, this is for corporate presentations or for presentations in organizations. I don't know if 10 minutes is enough for me to get all of my freckles out there.
I love that. All right. Well, I will say for myself, I actually have noticed when I speak on the big stage, I usually can go easily long. However, on the virtual stage, I actually prefer to keep my presentations a little bit shorter than I normally would, maybe 15 or 20 minutes shorter, just because the Q&As I think Q&A is the gold. Like literally with virtual conferences, the Q&As never stop because people just keep on asking questions throughout that. And you want to invite that. And that becomes part of the presentation. And I'm going to tell you, like the feedback that I've been getting on the virtual speaking is on par, but I think is now better. I've gotten even better feedback on the virtual speaking than even in person. And you and I have spoken on many stages together. This is something that we know very well how to speak on the large stage, but to do it well on the virtual is exciting, especially since your topic's a lot more interesting. Mine can be a little heavy, so it's exciting. It's exciting, and and I know we've run out of time here, so I wanted to just say, right, this was amazing. I know we want to learn more about this from you. Where can people learn more about, number one, where you're speaking at? If someone has a conference that they want to engage you, they want to bring you in to show, to talk about the act or your 313 methods or anything, where do they reach out?
So you can go to my website, and it's very hard to remember. It is ryan.online. Just think of Ryan.online. And if you do want to get 3 things from Ryan Foland, that's my newsletter. It's something to see, something to listen to, and something to watch that comes out weekly. You can go to ryan.online/sign up. But, my website has everything. Everyone should have a website because that's the only piece of property that you own online. And at the end of the day, I'm not for everybody and not everybody's for me. But for those people who want a high energy ginger speaker to come and challenge your audience and get them to participate, I'd be happy to talk more, and I'll let you know what I charge.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you so much for all of you for tuning in. If you haven't had a chance, we want to invite you to our next tweet chat. We generally have them every Wednesday, and every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 2 p.m. for those of you who join us on the East Coast. And you get to engage and learn and speak and share with people like Ryan Foland, like the amazing Suzanne Brown, who you saw last week, and so many others from across the globe. That's one of the gifts of coming together as a community. It doesn't limit us based on geography, even pre-pandemic. So we've been having this tweet chat now for a few years now. We are the largest business tweet chat on social media. So if you want to learn anything about business, entrepreneurship, marketing, social media, personal finance, everything in between, then we are absolutely the community for you. I also say some of the nicest people on social media by far are on our tweet chat. So a huge thank you to Ryan Foland for making the time and sharing the stage with me today. Thank you so much. It's so much more fun to talk about tweet chats when we talk about this with someone else in our community. So definitely follow. Also, Ryan's really active on Twitter. And Ryan is at the very difficult handle, Ryan Foland, right?
Exactly. Very difficult at Ryan Foland. And if you want to email me, I mean, it's just like, it's really hard. It's ryan@ryanfoland.com. I mean, oh, look, my wedding pictures, because I just got married 2 weeks ago. Yay!
Congratulations, Ryan. We're so happy you got married. And we know you had an amazing elope, pandemic style, right?
Yep. There's a good story in that for sure.
Yeah, and definitely, so definitely connect with Ryan. I'm sure we're going to invite Ryan to share this on social media, so you can go on there right now and talk to Ryan. And then hopefully we'll see you very soon. But thank you so much. Thank you, Jim, for sharing and coming on. And thank you everybody who tuned in on Twitch, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as YouTube. And of course, coming on to another social media platform near you very soon. Thank you, my friends, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.